Howdy everyone, this is Trisha and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how I created this little whimsical butterfly that I made using Dollar Tree fairy wings. So let's see what the supplies are going to be. Alright, so the first item you're going to need are some fairy wings. I got these at the Dollar Tree. And we'll be needing some flowers or some greenery, just something small. We'll also be using some moss, and that is your choice of what type you want to use. You'll also need to find some coordinating ribbons, something that'll go with your little flowers, and you can use whatever ribbons or combination of ribbons you like. We'll also need a piece of styrofoam and a 12-inch piece of chenille stem. We'll also be using some floral wire, and here I have some 26 gauge floral wire, and I also have some floral tape that we'll be using. And here I have my tools, and I have a little knife which I use to cut my styrofoam, some scissors to cut my ribbon, wire cutters to cut the wire, and of course I need some hot glue to put it all together. So let's get to crafting. Alright, so my first step is to actually remove all this really pretty netting off of it. If you like it, then just go ahead and leave it on there and just skip the step after this. But I'm going to go ahead and remove it. So I'm going to take off these little bits of elastic. They're actually pretty good, so I'll save them for something else. I'm just going to cut right into the netting. And I believe I can just tear it up and then just pull it off the shape. Just be careful that you don't really misshape your wire here while you're pulling on it. As you can see, I've already removed it off these two shapes here. So I'm just going to cut as close as I can. Remove that. I'm going to repeat the same for the other side, but I want to investigate this little part here in the middle and see if I can just rip it off. Alright, so it takes a little while and it takes a lot of little cuts here and there and ripping and pulling and tearing apart, but it does eventually come off. So you can just go ahead and leave this on here if you want. It's all going to get covered, but just try to get as much of the, the netting that's on the sides so you don't have anything kind of protruding outward from here. Alright, so I'm going to do the other half and I shall be back. Alright, so here's the wire form of the butterfly. I've got all the netting off. I just left that little bit in the middle. There is a little wire that's kind of hugging everything and it's nice and tight in there, so I don't want to take that off. These little parts can come apart from each other, this part and this part. And if you want to do that, go for it. And what you can do is get some wire hangers and then use this as a base to shape some wire hangers so that you can create another one, and then you don't have to go looking for these little fairy wings. Okay, so unless you're very creative and you could just use wire hangers to do this and not have to purchase the wings at all. Alright, so this is the next step. We're going to go ahead and add some extra wire right here in the middle, because when I did remove the bits here, there was some string tying that up and it's just become kind of loose. So I'm just going to use some wire to tighten that back up so it doesn't move around on me. The next thing is maybe to shape these a little different. I just want to give it a little bit of a point here. So all I'm doing is kind of pulling it. Just doing that. There you go. Just going to bend this down a little bit like that. There we go. And then maybe at the top, squeeze this little part. Give it a different shape. Okay, so all I did was squeeze right here, pop it open a little bit more, and bend these down a little bit. There we go, like that. And then just bend them however you feel you want to reshape them, if you want to reshape them. So that's a new shape that I like. So I'll go ahead and take my wire and then just get this on here. I'm going to twist this little end onto the longer piece, just like that, and then I can just wire around. Just like that, and I'm going to do the same thing all the way down here just to get it all nice and tight. All right, so I'm coming towards the end, so all I'm going to do is just wrap it around, you know, the little end here. Just wrap it around there just to hold that little end. And there we go. Look how pretty that looks. I think that looks really pretty, the shape. Okay, so now I'm going to take some extra wire, and then you can just cut some pieces. Like I'm going to cut the length of the wing going right down the middle and giving it a little bit of slack, maybe like an inch and a half, and then a little bit over here as well. So I'm going to do this one wing here, and then I'll do one on the top, and then of course you just mimic what you did on one side to the other side. So I'm pulling this little wire, and again tying the little end to this wire here, bring it down, and then just wire down at the point. And then what you could do is add a little dab of glue so that the wire doesn't move around on you. I'm just going to wrap this around till I got that whole little end all wrapped up. Just be careful because, you know, the wires do poke. So I don't know if you can see the wire there. Let's see, put it across my arm like that. So you can see that it's running across like that. Okay, so of course I would repeat the same thing to the other side. So I'm going to do the same on the top wing as well. Start at the center here and then all the way to the little tip here. I'll add another one, and then what we can do is we can just run little pieces of wire here and there going across our little wings. So let me go ahead and do one across this one, so just kind of give you an idea. So start at one point, wrap it around, and then what I would do is I would wrap it around that little wire in the middle just once, and then bring it around and wrap it over here. Alright, so I added the center one going across like that. So now I'm going to add to the top one going across like that, as I said earlier. So just trimming off a piece here. Okay, so there I've got another piece going across here. So I'm going to keep adding some wires, and then I'll show you what I've done, and then I'll do the same on the other side, of course. And I shall be back. Alright, so I have been adding wire and I'm almost done. There is one thing that I should have mentioned when I was going to be showing the supplies, is that you do need some little pliers, because when you do trim off these little ends of the wires, they're very sharp and they do poke you, and you don't want that. So what you want to do is you want to bend those little ends with the flat nose plier. Just bend them in there, and also you can just squeeze things together, little wires together like that. Make them a little tighter so they're not so loose. But that's what you want to do. And so far I've got these two bottom ones done, as you can see right there. And I'm almost done with the top. I think I just want to put like another one going across from here to here, the same up that way. Alright, so that'll be all I'm going to do to this, and then we'll go to the next step. Alright, so I've wired it all up just the way that I wanted, and added quite a bit of wire everywhere. I think it looks really pretty. So the next thing is to get some hot glue, and everywhere there's a little joint, just add a little dot of glue on there just to kind of help it from moving all over the place. Alright, so this next step is I've cut up quite a few of these little strips of floral tape. Doesn't matter what size you cut them. It'll be easy to wrap around our white wire here, our white base here, with a tape if it's off the roll, because it's so big it won't fit through here. And again, it gets a little clumsy. So we're just going to take our pieces of floral tape. And as you can see here, I've already wrapped up the center, and that's just to stabilize all that wire. But as I said, we're going to put some styrofoam here in front, and it's all going to get covered up, so we're not going to see that. But we're going to go ahead and start there, and I'm just going to pull on the tape just slightly to loosen up the adhesive on it. And sometimes it tears. It's okay. Just press it back on there. Pull on it just a little bit, and then just start wrapping around all these other wires. And I'm just going to do it like that, just to get that pinched in there like that. And don't worry if your tape gets all, you know, like rolled up and folded. You just start taping this up. Okay, and we're just going to tape the form of the outer, you know, the wings. We're not going to tape all these little bits here, all these little wires in the middle. Now if you want to do that, that is up to you. Okay, and so when you do that, you want to make sure that you go over all those little spots where you had some wire that was tying here, these little bits here. You want to make sure you go over all of that with your floral tape. So let's get that going. I have to keep checking to make sure that I don't go off screen here, so forgive me. Some little spots, I may lift this up too high. It's kind of hard to reenact all of that, so I'm just going to go ahead and continue doing this so that you can see what I'm doing. It's very simple. Just pull on the tape slightly to loosen up the adhesive on it, and then just keep wrapping. And every time you come over a joint, just wrap right over it. And there we go. We just continue. And of course, like I said, these little pieces are easier to handle than if you had the tape still on the roll. Okay, so anywhere it tears, just stick it back on. Don't, you know, throw that little piece away. Use it up. Okay, so we're just going to stretch a little bit there. Press it down onto the other tape that's already on there. And I am going to continue rolling. And I'm going to do all 4 wings like this. One more time. You don't have to do the center ones. I kind of like that little lightness of the little wires that are here. Very thin little membranes on the wings is what we want to mimic. So we don't want to tape those up, but if you want to do that, go right ahead. Another thing that I did see on some of these butterflies that I see on Pinterest being done like this is that this is then with a little sponge or a little brush, it is painted, you know, the tape, the green tape, instead of painted brown, or added some whites or some yellows or whatever you want to do. So if you want to do that, you can. And of course, you know, also sponge over the little wires in the middle if you want to paint those. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to continue doing it just the way that I'm doing here and finish it off. All right, so now all my butterfly is wrapped up in the floral tape. There is one thing that I was realizing as I was doing it is if you wrapped up the outer edge before you add this other wire, if you wrapped all that first, and then once you add these little wires on there, you could just go over with some more little bits of floral tape and just roll over on the joints. Of course, those are going to get covered up with some moss, so it's up to you how you want to do it. It took a little time, but I actually relaxed it with some music, so that is what I suggest you do as well. So we're going to go to our next step. Alright, so now I'm going to take my piece of styrofoam and I'm going to put it right here in the middle. And then this is where you can decide how big you want the piece to be, the body of the butterfly. And I've already gone ahead and I've actually cut this to the size that I want. This is maybe about 4 inches. And it's about 1.5 inches this way and about 1.5 inches that way. So when I first had it on here, I'm going to turn this around because it's got a flat side here. It was all flat when I first put it on here. Forgive me, I lost the footage, so I had to record it again. I didn't want this seesawing on here, so what I did is I started cutting an indentation in here with my little knife. I also used the knife to cut it. And that way this part of the butterfly will fit in there. But I've also got these sections right here that are not getting in there, so I'm going to go ahead and cut little corners off of here so you can carve your styrofoam to fit your little butterfly. Of course, if it's not this wide and it's not in the way, then you don't have to worry about cutting this little indentation. But I feel like it helps to keep everything in a good spot. Now I'm going to use some hot glue and I'm going to place it right in there to help it glue down. But I'm also going to be using some floral wire to wrap it all up and make sure that it doesn't come off. So first, my glue. And then I can just take some floral wire and I'll just cut several pieces and I'll wrap it around the middle. And then just twist. And then just add as many pieces of wire as you feel necessary to hold your whole little styrofoam piece. And I'm just going to poke those ends down and into the styrofoam. I'm going to cut another piece to come around the bottom over it like that. Alright, so now I can just trim the ends here and then just tuck those right into the styrofoam. And now I'm going to take another long piece, about 8 inches, And then I'm going to fold that in half and kind of twist it within itself like so. And then I'm going to fold it again and then twist that little folded edge with the other ends there. And then I have a little loop right here where I can hang my butterfly from. And I'm going to use some more hot glue and insert it right in there. Make sure you're putting it on the side with the top. This is my wings. I'm also going to put glue along the wire here. But insert it right in there. And I'll use the tip of the hot glue on so I don't burn my fingers. There. Push it in. With some more glue. Okay. So we'll let that dry and we'll do the next step. Alright, so I put my butterfly aside so it can dry. So in the meantime, I'm going to take some floral wire and I'm going to wrap my chenille stem. Now you don't have to wrap your chenille stem. You can leave it as is. But I think I would like the antenna for my butterfly to also be green. So I'm going to use the floral tape to wrap it. Remember, pull on it. It lets the adhesive out, and then you can tape it, and as you tape it, press down on it. And I'm just going to twist it till I get to the very end. And I might decide that I need to do it another good wrapping around it just to make sure that the tape is covering it up well. Okay, so I'm going to wrap it till I get to the very end, and then I think I'm just going to come back and wrap it back down to this end. And I'm going to go ahead and snip and then finish that little end by coming right back. And then you can use a little bit of hot glue if the little end is not sticking well. But if you pulled on it and you've let that adhesive out, then you should be okay. Okay, so now that I've got it all covered, I'm going to more or less fold it in half as best as I can. And then I'm going to take the little ends over here and just kind of curl them around my finger a little bit. Just like that. Do the other side. And just create the little antenna. There we go, just like that. Alright, once again, I did not hit record, so I'll just repeat what I had to do. So I had my butterfly like this, where I glued everything down and my little wire here to hang it. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've turned it over because this is actually the front, and I want to make sure that I have the top of my butterfly this way. So what I needed to do was now insert the little antenna. So I'm going to pull them out so I can just show you what I did. It's not quite dry yet. So I used my needle nose pliers, and at the top of the styrofoam I punctured a little hole, and then I'm going to take my glue and I'm just going to add some right here on the fold of the antenna, and then we're going to insert it into that little hole. That little hole helps us so we don't have to push so much. And we'll wait till all this dries and then we can reshape our antenna a better way, but we'll let that dry. Okay, so here I have all my little flowers, and I'm going to go ahead and just cut them off of the bushes here. They'll just make little single stems here. I'm just pushing up some of these flowers. Some of these just come right off, actually. We just pull them off like that because we don't really need all this stem. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and leave this one on the stem just because I want that length on that one. So I've got another one here that I'll do the same, but I'll do it as I need it. So I'm going to prepare those. Now, when I first purchased this particular greenery, I wanted to use this for the antenna of my butterfly. So let me give you an example of what you can do with these. So like if let's say I take out a couple of these because I want this to be my antenna, and if you want to create it out of that, I'm going to take some wire here, and then what you're going to do is you take 2 of these long blades of grass, 2 of these kind of like so, and then we're going to just wrap it up with wire, make a nice little stem tip out of this with some wire like that, and then you could just kind of fan these out a little bit. And then what you do is you can take your scissors or your little craft knife. Let me use the scissors. And these are so easy to curl, like so. And just the more you do it, the more that it curls. So this is an alternative to using the chenille stems for the antenna. Okay, you could curl them. That way, whichever way they curl best, then you can, or you know, whichever little grass bits curl the best, you can use those for your antenna. Okay, so that's what you can do instead of using the chenille stem. I'm still going to curl some pieces like that, but I'm not going to necessarily cut them into little bits like I did that one. I'm going to just trim it off the stem, and because it slides up and down, I'm going to slide it up as much as I can, put some glue in there, and then I'm just going to curl all the little pieces. See how much they can curl? That one, for example, the other ones didn't curl as much as this one. Okay, so I want lots of pieces that are curled like this for my arrangement because I don't need my little grasses to be so long. Okay, so I'm going to do some little pieces like this. Alright, as I showed you in the very beginning, I showed you that I had two types of mosses. So I have the Spanish moss, and then I have this little green moss here. And you could use either one, that's your choice. I think I'm going to use a combination of both. I really like this one, but I really like this for the wings. So I'm going to save that. And I'm going to use this Spanish moss to actually fill in the sides right here of my butterfly. So I'm just going to make like little bundles like that. Now I could use some greenery pins to actually poke that in, but I could also just put glue down and then push the moss onto the glue. Use a craft stick or some silicone fingertips to protect your fingers. Let me go ahead and grab mine so you can see what I'm talking about. Alright, so these are my little fingertip protectors. I actually got these from the Dollar Tree. And then you can use that to press down. They actually have a little silicone makeup applicator item that I'm going to look for because I've seen where some of the crafters have been using that to press down on things with that are, you know, the hot glue can poke through, like burlap, for example, or let me put this on my thumb instead. And there you go, just like that. So where they're using it for, you know, where burlap, like burlap, where the glue can seep through. And the Spanish moss, like this, for example, I use this finger now, and I burned myself. Okay, so there we go. But let me show you another way that you can also apply this, which I probably should have told you at the very beginning, that you could also use this. Alright, so here I have what are called greenery pins. They're also known as U-pins. These are used for floral arrangements. And what you do is you take your moss, which is super easy way to do this. I'm just going to do it right up here where you can see. Just get your moss, put it where you want, and then use a pin. It works like a staple, and just push it right in. And there you go. That's attached. And then you get your next wad of moss. We'll put it on this side. Put our pin in. That holds it. Let me turn this around this way. I'm going to add another wad over here. Actually, I'm going to overlap this a little bit so that I grab both. There we go, like that. And then one last bit for the top here. Let me wad it a little bit more. And I can actually use a combination of glue and my floral pins here. Little corners here. And then to bring this over on top of this one here. But you could also just grab your scissors and trim off, you know, any moss that's popping out a little too much. Okay, so we're just covering the sides, just like that. And now we can decorate it with a bow. So I'm going to clean up my little mess here and we'll be back. Alright, so now what I want to do is I want to put a bow on here, and the reason that I'm going to put the bow now is because I need to see how much space that bow is going to take so that I don't put any flowers there and then the bow will end up hiding all of that anyway. And I also do want to put some more of that other moss on my wings here and there in some spots. But I think I'll do the little bow first. I'm not going to make it very big. I do want some little tails coming off of it. So I'm just going to do about maybe 4 or 5 inches. and then just a small loop like that. And I think I'll make about, let's see, I'll make about 4 loops. Okay, and then just cut that off. And I'm going to cut a fairly long piece of wire. And I want the wire to go around the body of my butterfly so that I can tie it up at the back. So I'm just going to cut that piece right up in the center, put it on my bow, wrap it around. There we go. I'm just going to take the ends here, make my little dovetails. There's my little bow. I'm not going to worry about poofing it up yet because it's going to get squished. So I'm going to take the 2 ends here of the wire, wrap it around. I'm going to flip this over, bring the wire around, and then just twist. And then I can trim off the excess. And I'm not going to cut it too short because I want to be able to then take those little ends of the wire and push it into the styrofoam. And then what you do is add a little bit of glue. Of course, you'll let that dry, and then we can turn it over. All right, so now that I've turned it over, I can fluff up my little bow. And then I'm going to take the smaller little ribbon. So this is completely optional, what ribbons you want to use. And I'm just going to make another kind of multi-loop bow here. And I think I'll do like 3 loops on each side, so I'll have 6 little loops. And I already have a piece of wire cut up, and it's just a small piece, just enough to wrap around this, and then I can twist it and then just take the ends and kind of curl them around into itself. And press it up against the little bow like that, and that gives you something to put some glue on. Pop open your, let's see, pop open your little bow and then put that right in the middle. Okay, we're going to want that to also dry before you move it. Alright, so as you can see here, I've got a nice little bow on my butterfly body here, and it's not too big, so it's not covering any of my wings. It's keeping within the space of the body here. And now we can add some greenery and some of these pretty little flowers. So down here at the bottom, I've got some space there. So I'm going to take this longer piece, and I've gone ahead and I've cut all these little stems. I don't need them to be very long. I just need them to be long enough to insert into the styrofoam. So a little bit of glue, and I'm going to insert it right under where the bow is, right here. So it covers up this little area, and it's nice long pieces. And if you feel like, you know, you're using a different greenery than mine, then just make sure that it's, you know, not too, you know, long. It's not protruding outward too much. So like I have these little grasses, I can just curl them up a little bit more, and then they're not so long, and they're kind of wispy, so that's nice. And I still can see my wings. I don't want to put too much here that it covers what my wings look like. They're so pretty, and I think I did such a great job on them. I don't want to ruin it. Okay, so I'm going to take another stem. This one actually has a long stem on it. I didn't trim that one, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And I'm going to put this one on the other side over here. So I'm just going to kind of pop these, bend them sideways. I don't want them popping up too far up. So I'll add a little bit of glue. Put it right where the bow is. So see, you don't want to poof up your bow, waste too much time doing that, because you're just going to end up squishing it. So save it to make it perfect the way you want it till the very end. Here I got a long piece here, so I'm just going to curl that one. And this one as well. This is where you can look at your piece and decide, you know, if some things are a little too poofy, okay? And if you need more, keep adding. I'm going to save these for later, and then I can start adding the flowers. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and start adding the moss on my wings. So I'm going to take this other moss, and I'm going to get like little pieces, just little pieces, sometimes this big, sometimes a little bit smaller, and just a dab of glue, and then put them, especially where the wires are joining together. You want to make sure you get it on there. Really break it into even smaller little pieces, and just take your time doing this. Okay, you might feel more comfortable if you actually put the glue on here and then just carefully put that on there. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that on all 4 wings until I feel like that looks good enough. And then I can take like even little tiny bits like that and put it on the thin wire here. And use those little silicone things for your fingers so you don't burn your hands. Alright, so I'm going to continue doing that to all 4 wings and I'll be back. Alright, so I've gone ahead and I've put all the moss that I want to put on the wings. As you can see there, I put one wherever there was a joining of, you know, the wire, wherever it twirled, you know, on here. And I had a little bit of a wire twist there. I don't know how else to put it, a little knob of wire. So I put that on there, and then some of those spots where there really wasn't one. But I tried to be the same on both sides like these two, but try not to be too exact so they would look a little more natural. So there we go. Beautiful wings. Now, so now I want to go ahead and add some flowers. I have this one here that's still on the stem. It's a little long. I'm going to go ahead and trim that, and I'm going to save the little piece of stem. As a matter of fact, I've got another piece here that I'm saving. Add a little bit of glue to that. Have that one coming out from the bottom here. Now, any spots on my styrofoam that I can still see, I can take some of that same little green moss, or if I still had some of this Spanish moss, I would just cover that up. But first I'm going to add flowers and see if I have any little bald spots. And remember, I do have 2 of this little flower, but I've only cut one because I don't know if I need the second one. I might have way too many flowers, so we'll see. Okay, so now that I've got these extra little sticks here, I can use that in here to make sure that I have something to insert into the styrofoam, because this little plastic's a little soft, and if I try pushing it in, if I put glue on it, it'll melt it a little bit. So that gives me that little hard plastic with a little wire inside of it to have something to poke in, just like that. Here's another little piece, and I'll put that right on there, and they're just like about an inch. You could add some glue right there just to make sure it doesn't come off. There we go. And I did kind of pull it off. Okay, there we go. Push it in there. I'll do one on the other side. Cut a little piece of stem. Actually, I could just put a little bit of glue on there and then insert that right in there. There we go. Okay, let me poof up my bow so that I can see. Down here at the bottom, I feel like it's nice and full. I don't need anything more. Let's see, how many more flowers do I have? I've got 3. So let me take this longer one here. Add a little stem to it. Add more over here. And then these 2, I'll add them at the bottom here. Underneath the bow right here. And then one on the other side. There we go, and then just hide with the ribbon tails. Now here I've got little ball spots, so I'm going to take more of these here. I'm going to trim that also. Fill in. I'm actually going to trim this one here. Just cut that one off. And I'll get one more. So I don't need all of this. And I'll trim it a little bit here, make it a little bit shorter. Push that in as far as it'll go. And there we go. And now I'm going to take some more of this moss here. Get some little clumps like that. This seems to be the flat part. Add some glue. Cover that up. And then I can see through the grass here that I can see the styrofoam, so I'm just going to reach in there. There we go. Fix my flowers so they're not so squished down. There we go. Anywhere else where you see some styrofoam, add a little bit of moss. So I have a little bit of spots down here at the, on the bottom part here. I just reach in and put some moss there. And right in here. The bow does a lot of the covering, so just bend your ribbon to cover. Alright, so there we go. I think it looks super pretty. There's all the flowers. You can see the little antennas. There we go. So it is completed. Alright everyone, I have completed my whimsical butterfly. As you can see here, this is made from Dollar Tree fairy wings. I've got a little wire back here where I can hang it from. And all I have to do now is just remove a lot of these webs from my glue gun. And someone suggested that I can use my blow dryer or use a heat gun. And I did get a heat gun, so I'll be doing that to remove all of those from there. But that is it. My little craft is completed. I only used one little bush of the flowers, so that gives you an idea of what I used. Very easy. The ribbon, maybe a yard or so of ribbon, and another, 20 inches or so of that thin ribbon to create the one in the middle. But that's it. It took very little of my supplies. The Spanish moss was some leftover from a little bag, and this other one obviously was also from another bag, and I used very little of it. So even though this type of moss costs a little bit extra, as you can see, it uses very little of it, so it's very cost effective, and then you can use the rest of the moss for some other projects. So there we go. I'm going to give myself a big old thumbs up. I hope that you too will give me a big old thumbs up and leave a kind comment down below. Let me know what you think of my project. I did get the idea looking at Pinterest pictures, so this is not my original idea. I don't know whose original idea it is, but anyhow, just look at Pinterest and you can find lots of things to inspire you. Do your own version. So this is my own version of this particular little butterfly with the fairy wings. And I hope that you enjoyed it. And also, please make sure you subscribe. Hit that red button down below the video. You can also hit my little icon right here, and that will help you to subscribe. And after you do that, the little notification bell is really very important that you go ahead and click on that and choose all so that you get notified of my videos, which I try to do twice a week. Otherwise, you may not get any notifications and you won't know that my video went up. So it's really important that you hit that, so I ask you to please do that. You can also share on your social medias if you'll do so. Also, follow my Facebook page, Trisha's Creations, and you can also post your creations on there, post pictures of what you've made or even recipes if you want to share that with everyone else. All right, everyone, I hope that you all have a wonderful week and get to crafting, everyone. So as always, enjoy.